Obviously, we are in the Superdome in New Orleans, the biggest dome there is. In fact, all the domes in this country could fit in here together all at once. That's exaggeration for the sake of effect, but you get the idea. Only the biggest can handle the monster trucks. What do we have tonight? We got lots of beads. Come to New Orleans, you wear beads. You wear a long shirt, you have beads. That's why I'm wearing this. New Orleans. Now tell me something. What do you want? When you want a nice mix of monster trucks, we got that. We also got, well, we got Pro Stadium trucks, awfully spicy, but they're so fast, they're Cajun hot. Hogwood, Douglas, while you guys begin the show and have a good one, I'm gonna go finish my crawfish etouffee. I love saying that.
Hey, Dan, we love hearing you say that. The food is great down here in New Orleans. We're at the Superdome tonight, ready for some super monster truck action. This crowd is fired up. There's going to be some great racing here tonight. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Hogwood. Welcome to Motor Madness Monster Jam along with Scott Douglas. Scott, this is going to be some show here tonight.
It's going to be outstanding in the Superdome, a great place for motorsports, and an awesome field here, really an all-star lineup. And we're going to run them down, take a look at the monsters we'll be taking a look at tonight. And we start off with Barefoot, having a great season as always. Monster Patrol, Paul Schaefer's in the house. Then we get a couple of looks at the cats tonight. The Prowler will be here, and kind of his teammate, his companion, the big black cat known as the Predator. Also in the house tonight, we'll get a good look at Jack Coburn and Cyborg trying to keep up with the big boys.
Hey, busting loose tonight. He's going to make some moves on the field. And you know what? Gunslinger is having a great season. See what he can do here in New Orleans tonight. Samson is strong everywhere he goes. I'm sure he'll be running. And hey, the Grave Digger. The crowd loves the Digger here in New Orleans. Well, Scott, let's talk about our monster trucks and where we stand now in the point standings.
Certainly, Gravedigger has been the story, even though he struggled of late. Gunslinger, as you can see, has been the hot hand and now has moved up into the 4th place spot. In that second 5, a lot of guys who could make a move. Bulldozer, Carolina Crusher, Captain America, all top-quality trucks.
And we're going to see them all run here tonight in the Superdome in New Orleans. It's going to be a great show. We've got first-round action coming up, so stay with us. We'll be back in New Orleans in just a moment.
Brought to you by Cat.
Back on Monster Jam, Mike Hogwood and Scott Douglas. Scott, you remember last week we were looking for the flag. It is somewhere in these monster trucks. I have no idea where.
They say it still exists, and the word is that Gary Porter's the guy who might actually have the latest idea on where it is.
Really? Well, let's check in and see if Gary Porter knows about the flag.
Well, Dennis always says he has that flag. I think I have the flag myself. You know, the flag started back in about 1988 or 89, I think. You know, with a tough tracks, you know, series, point series. And, you know, me and him always kept the flag between us, you know, a lot of times back then. And, you know, I still have that flag at home. Dennis might say he has it, but he doesn't. He don't know where that flag is at.
Okay, now we have the story. Hey, coming up tonight, I think Barefoot, Todd Frolic, is ready to do it here in New Orleans. Watch out for Barefoot tonight in our field. Who's the underdog? Well, I think it's Samson. A lot of muscle under that hood. Dan Patrick knows what he's doing. He's been a veteran of this sport. He is ready to roll here tonight in New Orleans.
With another U-turn course in New Orleans, I've got to like this shot here on our full-on field of favorites that the Monster Patrol's got tonight. The big bad machine out of Indiana with Paul Schaefer behind the wheels, as good as anybody and is consistent. But this guy is always the wild card. Dennis Anderson and the Gravedigger, he's one of these guys. He's going to take it all that he can give it, and he very well may be the winner at the end of the night.
Well, there you see Barefoot, Todd Frolic behind the wheel, and this is what we call a bye run. Todd Frolic, all he has to do basically, Scott, is just make the course.
Well, he's got to make sure he doesn't go out of bounds or do anything illegal to get disqualified, but it does create an exceptional advantage for Todd to get a feel for the course before he has to actually race.
And Todd is off now in Barefoot, and we get a chance to see the course as he goes up in the air. He's not holding back. The turn, again, we have this U course here, and that turn is tough as they turn and then go, wow, up over those set of cars. He gets this crowd on its feet a little bit here.
You had Barefoot pegged right off the bat as one of the favorites, and you can see why right there. Just awesome power. We've talked about it here on Motor Madness. That Keith Black Hemi engine is just so powerful, and this guy is not afraid to use what he's got. Todd Frolick and Barefoot.
Oh, look at it again, and Todd Frolick now getting prepared to go the second round, getting a little air here, and this is going to be fun to watch as these guys take this course, and indeed you see him negotiating those turns and really get up. Let's go down now to Dan Moriarty.
Todd, that was one heck of a first-round race.
Yeah, it was pretty easy bye run. I haven't been doing too good these last couple weeks. I think the guys were feeling sorry. They all voted to give me the bye run. Make me feel good getting into the second round, you know, get some points up, and ramps are really nice out there, man. We're catching some good air. It's going to be a good show.
Did you have a choice of which ramps you had to go over, either lane 1 or lane 2?
Yeah, actually, I took the bad set first, figuring if I run up against Digger or something and flip a coin, I lose it, I'll have some practice over there. So them guys, I'm ahead of them already. I practice in the bad lane.
So you're in the second round for the first time in a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been winning before, and all of a sudden you're on a cold streak, so the guys are really being nice to you.
Yeah, they're being nice to me. Houston was good to me, and ever since then it's been bad, so maybe we're on a comeback, huh?
Todd Frolick seems to be ready to go tonight. So do a lot of these other guys, too. We'll have more monster truck action coming up here on TNN's Motor Madness Monster Jam.
TNN salutes a century of motorsports and the advent of on-the-air racing.
We'll also talk to Richard Childress' team and try to figure out what makes them click and has made them the #1 team.
Monster Jam coming to you tonight from the Superdome in New Orleans. First round, and we got a good matchup here, Scott.
And, of course, an important matchup. You know, tonight's Monster Truck's competing for a portion of the $100,000 Pace Motorsports Monster Jam point fund. That means these early rounds just as important sometimes as the late rounds. Paul Schaefer knows that in the Monster Patrol. He's got that unique wing design Monster Truck ready to go against one of the hottest new trucks on the circuit, especially in the way it looks. Dave Pizzo has got that 98 Cats, what he calls it, in terms of body style, and you can see it's awesome looking. The Prowler's ready to roll.
Did you see the eyes on the Prowler? Boy, looks like he's ready to prowl. But I want to tell you something. The Monster Patrol is having a pretty good season and has to be the favorite in this tonight. And one of the favorites to win it all here in New Orleans.
No question about it. You know, Dave knows he's squaring off against Paul Schaefer, one of the real veterans, former world mud racing champion, and for the last several years, one of the premier monster truck competitors as they're underway.
And again, this turn is awfully critical here on this U course, and Monster Patrol makes it. Prowler does a good job. Wow, look at the air! A Monster Patrol and Monster Patrol up in the air and on to win here in this first round.
You heard Todd Frolick talking a few moments ago with Dan down in the pits about the air, the way these ramps are built, and we are going to see some exciting flying tonight from these guys.
That was awesome. It really was. What a job by Monster Patrol.
Taking a look at Paul Schaefer now as he's coming right at you, and you can see that absolutely straight, gets into the turn beautifully and swings it out. It was just really a picture-perfect run, but watch the air.
That was incredible. Hey, let's go back down to Dan.
Oh, Paul Schaefer, nice first round.
Yeah, I made it through the first round. I had the guys at Royal Buick help me out. They tuned my truck up a little bit this week, and it's running good.
What do you think about the track? Because it's awfully play-doughy in that corner, that hairpin turn.
I'm going to tell you what, it's going to take a driver. If you go a little bit too hard, you're going to be laying on your lid. It's a tough track. It's got some steep ramps, and it takes all driver, a little horsepower.
Well, you heard the key is the driver. Well, here are two more pretty good ones, Predator and Cyborg, going head-to-head. Let's learn more about the Predator. Alan Pizzo behind the wheel of that great-looking machine. Alan Pizzo is like the famed lion tamer in the circus, putting his own big cat through its paces for the fans. And to Alan, like the circus performer, the fans are the driving force behind his performance.
For all the hard work that goes into these trucks, you come to the races and see all the smiling faces on these kids, man, that's all what it's all about.
Put your hands together for Predator!
Kids from all ages, from 3 to 80, you know, it just depends on who all comes.
Alan loves to put on a show for the fans, but nevertheless, he is a true competitor and always looks for the win. And it seems like his Predator Monster 4x4 is perpetually ready to pounce.
Getting ready to gnaw the competition. I've always been kind of like a four-wheel drive nut, you know. It's probably one of the wildest rides that you'll ever take, you know. If you can think of your best roller coaster amusement park, this ride is 10 times better than that roller coaster.
It's fun, but boy, it's a lot of work. You got that right.
And there's a look at Predator getting ready to take on Cyborg. As you heard him say, this is a roller coaster ride. Well, they're getting that big time ride here in the Superdome.
Getting ready with Jack Coburna coming out now in the Dodge. Again, we've got to keep an eye on Coburna. He doesn't have the horsepower the other trucks do, but as Paul Shaver mentioned a moment ago, there's a lot of driver involved in this truck, not horsepower. And
there's Alan Pizzo and Predator, who we just heard from. And this first round battle is underway.
Great hole shot right there by Predator. He's got a nice lead into the turn, but hey, it looks like he's stalled.
Yeah, Predator is stalled, and that means that Cyborg over the cars and through, and Cyborg will advance on here in the first round.
That's why you're running a race. On paper, this one should have been all Predator, but Cyborg, Jack Coburna, just comes out. He does his thing. He runs it smooth, he runs it smart, and he's able to complete the course. Predator, something goes wrong in the turn.
Yeah, we looked, and he just came to a stop, and we'll see if Dan Moriarty knows what's going on down on the arena floor.
Jack, first round's down. Why is Cyborg holding it so well out there?
Well, with the two-wheel drive system we got, we come into the corner, not having a locker in the rear, so the tires will give a little bit. The front end dips down, so we got a pretty good chance in corners to catch up.
What it looks like you have is when you hit that corner, because everyone else is such a hairpin turn, you got one tire going one way, one tire going the other way, and you're pulling out of it very smooth.
Yeah, well, it's the locker we're in. It's just going to spin and you're going to lift up. This way, with coming into it hard and back spinning it, it's giving me that traction. I need to get around the corner and slide into it.
When you got here and you saw the track, did you say this track is built for Cyborg?
Yeah, I love turning courses. It's my tracks.
You look good in the first round.
Well, I sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Keep going, Jack.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, Cyborg a winner. We'll see what else happens here in the first round. A lot more monster truck action coming your way.
You can buy.
Time now for a United States Hot Rod Association update. Let's go north of the border to Canada, Toronto.
In the Sky Dome, Toasaurus Rex and Executioner squaring off early second round action, and the Executioner looking hot on this cold night in Toronto.
Hey, and then a little freestyle activity with Rambo and Avenger. I love it when these guys go freestyling, getting some air. Look at Rambo.
Oh, Willie Weaver's been at this game a long time. And then they got to the final. Gravedigger and Executioner. Boy, they came right down to the wire, crossed together, as you can see, but Gravedigger with just a nose in front. And then it was freestyle time.
I have freestyle again and doing some of those 360s, getting a little air. Hey, is there a better freestyler around than Digger? Not many can do that.
And the fans love it in Toronto, and I tell you what, everybody loves when you get a 10,000-pound donut. Now, Gunslinger's been hot recently, and he won last time out in San Antonio and Indianapolis.
Had a win in San Antonio, had a win in Indianapolis. We'll see what he can do here in New Orleans. Gunslinger going up against Sampson. Scott, do you think Sampson has anything for Gunslinger here tonight?
Dan Patrick's going to be in every race anytime he races unless he has breakage. He has some of the best equipment, one of the most talented drivers in the business, but you cannot take away the fact that Scott Hartsock is the hottest gun on the circuit right now. He is red hot.
And there you see him, and I think the crowd here at the Superdome knows it. Scott Hartsock in that Ford. Been in this business 6 years, which is a relatively short time, but he is very, very talented.
You know, the Chevy-powered trucks and the Chevy machines have been dominant of late, and I know a lot of Ford fans are really, really getting a kick out of seeing Gunslinger rising to the top against these guys. But here's Dan Patrick, another GM product, that 898 Chevrolet with a big block engine.
Boy, for a first-round matchup, this is going to be quite a battle here. Sampson and Gunslingers, both trucks are ready to go on this U-turn course, and we'll see who can get the hole shot. That seems to have been pretty important here, too, because it is such a driver track. As we've heard drivers say, it's not so much horsepower. It's a lot of driver involved in this track here in New Orleans.
Could be another track, though, where Gunslinger's turning ability might be an advantage. He's got a great start, though. Actually, a slight lead on Sampson early on.
Boy, you are right. Look at that turn. Gunslinger, a great job making the turn, and it's going to be Gunslinger.
And he won it on the turn. Just so smooth through the turn, and by that time, Dan Patrick just had to try and give it everything he had, but it was too late. What a great, smooth run by the hottest man in monster truck racing, Gunslinger. Let's look at Sampson right here, though. He got out of the hole pretty well. It's the turn that bogged him down. Actually got off on the concrete. You don't want to do that. That'll cost you some time.
Well, let's see what happened with Dan Patrick with our man, Dan Moriarty.
Man, what's the track like?
It's very tacky. It's a horsepower track, and it's going to make it kind of tough, you know, for guys with big motors. We got off on the concrete. Concrete makes it really bad. So it can be a fast track. We're not real crazy about the ramp on the last set of cars. I mean, you got to hit at pretty good speed. So, I mean, it's kind of a treacherous track. It's a thinking track.
I mean, you qualified out of that round even though you came in second place in your heat. What does that do to you for the next round mentally?
It doesn't really do much for me because each time I go out and run, I'm actually racing myself. If I beat the guy, great. If I don't, I mean, that's, you know, because I kind of pace on what I do. And if I got to run Digger, which will be a tough round, and we beat him before, and he's beat us before, but I'm just going to give it the same thing I did with Fast the last time, but hopefully keep it on the track.
And what do you think you take from that last round because of the track, and now you know what you've got to do to overcome it? What can you bring to the next round to try and beat Gravedigger?
What I'll do is I'll hug more to the inside of the track. I went wide there, and it put me too wide or too short on the last jump, so I had to overcompensate. So what I'll do is I'll try to base my turn to where it's a good, clean turn, and I go straight to the cars.
Always a favorite, Dan Patrick. We'll be watching for you, Dan. Good luck, man. Keep it up.
All right, thanks, Dan and Dan. And we take a look at more replays from that last one. And Gunslinger, making that turn.
Indeed, in the turn, Mike, it was just perfect, and that got him the win.
Let's hear from Scott Hartsook now.
You got a lot of mojo going your way lately, don't you?
Hey, we do. You know, if we can put these big trucks down like we're doing tonight, you know, so far, this is a hell of a tacky track out here, you know. You got to go down here and feather it in that corner, and you can just feel the truck grab the ground, and it just like wants to suck it down there to us. We put the Mega Power down right there in the corner, jump them set of cars, put Big Sampson out. Hey, he's tough. You know, he ain't nobody to lay down for. I don't know who we got next round, but we're going to take it one step at a time. We're glad we got a set of head gaskets in this motor that are holding up right now, so all we can do is go out there and cock lock and ready to rock these boys.
Well, Sampson will move on to the next round because of the fast qualifier. There's Bustin' Loose, driven by Ron Nelson out of Conroe, Texas. Let's learn a little more about him.
I got a pretty good story on that.
It seems that Bustin' Loose driver Ron Nelson is full of stories to tell.
I met my wife about 16 years ago, and she went to school with a guy that actually was doing the business. He was just when the business was just getting started. And a couple years later, me and him got together and built this truck. 7 years later, here we are. I got a pretty good story on that. It's my first original. It's the only one I've owned, and it's the one I've started in. It cost me right at $100,000 to run this truck, and that's counting the semi, the fuel, the tires. That ain't counting blowed motors.
So how does a family man...
She's got a full-time at home, and we got 2 kids.
...keep up with the grueling schedule that is required to run on the monster circuit?
I got a pretty good story on that, It's tough. We left Monday afternoon and pulled in Thursday morning by myself, 1,800 miles across the United States to get there, across the snow and all the mountains and everything. It's tough. It's tough on a man.
But what drives Ron to keep up this kind of pace?
I like flying through the air, actually getting something that heavy. We can fly 15 cars, you know, 150 feet, 5 cars, whatever we got at the shows. I'm usually the underdog. And the challenge to beat the guys that are on top, you know, knock them off their podium. And that's what I'm here to do. I love it.
Well, you talk about underdog, he's got to go up against Gravedigger in the first round. He will be an underdog, but we'll have that race coming up next.
Hole 3 of the Cooper time.
The TNN Motor Madness Monster Jam Finals are tomorrow night in St. Louis. It's 16 monster trucks in the car-crushing four-wheeling World Finals, plus the Quad Wars World Finals, Pro Stadium Truck World Finals. Every single seat in the dome, just $10. You can get them at pacemotorsports.com.
Right, we're ready for that. We're ready here in Superdome in New Orleans. Gravedigger, the favorite here. He's a favorite almost everywhere that the monster trucks run. And do you remember in Indianapolis, it was a tough night for Dennis Anderson.
Yeah, last week, we're going to see the old Gravedigger getting into the spot where he really didn't want to go. As he tries to make the turn, it just kind of grabs. The dirt grabs, up he goes. Dennis tries everything he can to save it, but at this point, he's done. He's on his lid.
Boy, those turns are so critical in these domes when we have these courses, and it was tough. That busted loose, we heard about Ron Nelson, who is indeed the underdog, and a big underdog to Gravedigger.
Yeah, what I found interesting, though, is that in the pits there, Sampson was already talking about he's going to probably have to race Dennis and Anderson in the second round. I think Ron Nelson would like to shake that plan up just a little bit here in Bustin' Loose. But always, anytime Dennis Anderson pulls up to the line, he's a contender to win, and most of the time a favorite. 17 years at it, and certainly nobody will drive a truck harder or get more out of it than Dennis Anderson.
We'll see if Ron Nelson and Bustin' Loose has anything for the favorite here in New Orleans. And it's Gravedigger with the early lead, but he's off the course just a little bit.
And not too bad, though, but you want to stay off the concrete. Didn't hurt him much, and he is in control.
Gets some pretty good air and wins easily. Gravedigger advances on, and we will get that Gravedigger-Sampson matchup a little later. And you see there inside the truck, Dennis Anderson, pretty excited about that run.
Guarantee it. He really hit that baby perfectly, except for getting off on the concrete, but even that didn't hurt him much. He just got off on it a little bit. As we're going to take a look at the replay, watch Digger, first of all, a great hole shot. Now, he's going to veer just a little bit, but he's able to get right back up on the dirt. As we talk to Sampson, you don't want to be on the concrete. Then watch him check out on the second half of the course.
Gravedigger looking awfully strong. Let's hear from Dennis Anderson.
A great first run. What's the track feel like?
Track's a little tacky. First two hills are pretty big. We got over them real good with the Gravedigger. Broke into that turn down there, and you got to go slow in that turn. So it makes the race a little slow. You got to have good power coming out of the turn. We got a lot of sky ramps out there on the cars. Hey, that was just the first round. We'll see what happens later on.
So the truck's going to be handling really well when you take that turn, because the straightaway, the ramp before the crush cars, seems to give you guys a lot of air.
Yeah, it does. The ramps are really steep, and heck, when we come into that turn down there, I would rather have a little slide, a little loose dirt, just slide around. You can take the turn faster. You got to tiptoe into that turn and come out of it running. You can believe that.
Yeehaw, it's a team sport down here tonight between the driver, the truck, and the track.
Hey, that's right, man. We're here to win, and hey, may the best man win.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right, Dennis Anderson. He is definitely a favorite here. Let's take a look at our brackets.
Here's how it's going to come down. It will be Gravedigger against Sampson, who's back as the fast qualifier. Cyborger, surprise, he gets Gunslinger. Barefoot's going to take on Monster Patrol. That is going to be some kind of matchup in the second round.
It's going to be a great second round of action. Right now, we want to take you on our collision course. Have a look. We've got some Pro Stadium trucks running here in New Orleans. We'll have highlights of their activities coming up from the Superdome in New Orleans.
NASCAR.
Welcome back to Motor Madness. Pace Supercross soars into the Motor City next weekend. Check out Pontiac Silverdome action as Jeremy McGrath and Michael Rocco battle for first place. Tickets are available at pacemotorsports.com. Listen to the live Supercross webcast at pacesupercross.com, 10:30 p.m. Eastern every Saturday night.
Well, it is time now that we show you some of the Pro Stadium trucks. This is Bayou Bandit against Twister. And Twister with Thomas White was the winner here. We're just going to show you some of the highlights of some of the things going on. And there you see Thomas White out of North Carolina comes home a winner.
Get Robert Doolittle and Dan Sutter. Sutter in the orange truck he calls tough and ugly coming out. And he's been having a pretty good run, but you can see Doolittle got it going. The Louisiana driver with a lot of home folks got it going good, but Sutter ended up winning the race.
Let's move on now. And Cajun Spice and Beetlejuice. Ralph Massey piloting Cajun Spice. And down here in New Orleans, can anybody other than Cajun Spice come home a winner? No, Cajun Spice in that Chevy. Looking good here in round one. Ralph Massey the winner.
So you see how it got to the semifinals. Thomas White against Dan Sutter, John Jungeblatt and Chad Walden coming out of the other side of the bracket. Walden in one of my favorite name trucks, the top of the food chain, by the way. Yeah. I love that. Now, Sutter and White in the semifinals. This is two very experienced Pro Stadium truck guys, and you can see Thomas Ray White really on it. Sutter hung with him, but it was Thomas Ray White, Twister 3, moving into the finals.
Thomas White out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, looking awfully strong. And here's your guy, top of the food chain, and Wild Thing, John Jungeblatt. Looks pretty strong. He's the winner of that one.
Well, that puts him into the finals against Twister 3, and it was a great hole shot, a super start for Thomas Ray White. Gets to the turn well as he always does, and indeed, in the Superdome, Thomas Ray White and Twister 3, the points leader, takes the win.
Oh, great job for Thomas White. We got more monster truck action coming your way.
If your car isn't giving you good performance, it could.
Time again for a U.S. off-road update. Let's take you to Pontiac, Michigan.
Kind of the birthplace, if you will, for the U.S. Off-Road Series, and the fans in the Motor City love it. The stadium lights open things up. Richard Kozar putting that number 2 in victory lane. Then it was off to the super modified buggies.
And in the super modified buggies, we had a lot of great racing, but Corey Witherell was the winner there, as he's been so many times this year.
Wrapping it up with the stadium sport trucks and the outstanding action there. Always high-flying action whenever the stadium sport trucks hit that starting grid. As they cross the finish line, Lee O'Donnell put himself in victory lane.
Here are stadium lights point standings. Richard Kosar out in front of Joe Price in the modified buggies. Corey Witherell having a great year.
And Lee O'Donnell now on top in the stadium sport trucks by 5 points.
Let's go to Dan Moriarty.
You know, it's tough doing a jargon jam without a jargon. The problem is, Predator here does an incredible wheelie, which you fans have seen, but he has no idea what to call it. So next time you see him, make sure you yell out what his jargon jam for his wheelie should be.
You got to try and be different from everybody else. So, you know, all them hours driving up and down the interstate, you got things going through your mind. You want to try something different, you know, and be kind of unique. That's why it sets me apart from everybody else, because I do quite a bit of different things that are totally different that nobody else does. Just giant wheel stands.
Giant wheel stands. We got to think of a new name for this now.
Well, in between the next 2 shows or the next show, while I'm driving down the interstate, I'll see if I can come up with a better name.
You launch so hard on this big mobile, you'll dive into the second mobile, and it'll actually trip your truck. If you try to clear both of them and you don't clear it, it'll trip the tail end. It's called a tail slap. It'll tail slap that tail into the truck and flip you up on your nose. Then you got to drive on your front wheels.
Well, there's Todd Frolick, driver of Barefoot. He hopes he doesn't have a tail slap in this run. It's going to be a good one. Barefoot going up against Monster Patrol.
It's hard to win when you tail slap, I'll tell you that. These guys want to keep it a lot more under control. And these are 2 guys who can do it. Great veterans and outstanding trucks, and both get off to a good start.
That's Monster Patrol in the near lane, and he's off into the concrete. We'll see if it hurts him.
Didn't look to.
That's a great turn by Monster Patrol. Hey, what a great job of getting some air and Monster Patrol on to win over Barefoot rather handily.
You know, I'm thinking back to the beginning of January when we started 1999 on Motor Madness, and Barefoot and Todd Frolick looked so good. But ever since then, it has been nothing but bad luck for him. And here, he was hanging with Monster Patrol, although it looked like Paul Schaefer was in control, but just bogged down. Something went away in the second half of the course.
Well, you see Barefoot, who looks like he has a little problem. You really have to slow down in that turn. Looks like he really almost came to a complete stop in the turn.
And there's something. He's got virtually nothing, and then he finally fires it again, but he's done at this point. It looked like he bogged down coming out of the turn. And Barefoot, again, all that horsepower, but not able to get it through the turn. Let's watch Monster Patrol in the ISO.
Now, you'll see Monster Patrol get off that dirt there just a little bit, but it did not hurt him.
Again, if you'll remember back earlier, Dan Patrick and Sampson was significantly off onto the concrete. Monster Patrol and Gravedigger both have gotten on it a little bit, but again, not enough to slow either one of them down. Paul Schaefer's going into the semifinals.
Let's take another look at Barefoot again. You were right, Scott. Something definitely broke on that truck.
It has something to do with the rear steer, I would say, just the way the truck came through the turn and then wasn't able to finish it off. So, again, a bad break right there for Barefoot. But what Paul Schaefer and Monster Patrol has just been so smooth. I was even surprised to see him get off course a little bit just because he's been so good, so solid, and so consistent. And, again, it didn't hurt him much as he really gets a lot of air coming over the finish, doesn't he? Wow.
And then shows his strength. And as we've talked about, it was Paul who told us that it's not so much the horsepower. It is exactly how you drive this course. There's Gunslinger getting ready to go up against Cyborg.
What an interesting matchup we have here. Again, Cyborg is the truck with the two-wheel drive, the only one. And Jack Coburn, as he told us earlier, thinks that's a decided advantage going through the turn. But no one has been getting through these U-turn courses better over the last several weeks here on Motor Madness than this guy. The big Ford from Oldsmar, Florida, Scott Hartsock, and the Gunslinger. Looking for another notch to put in that belt.
Scott has really been the man to beat in these big arenas where we do have these U courses, and we'll see what he can do. And as you said, Cyborg thinks he may have the formula to win here because it is such a driver track. Well, both trucks are staged and ready to go.
Let's see how Cyborg does. You know, Jack Coburn knows in U.S. Hot Rod sanctioned competition, he doesn't have the horsepower, but he tries to make it up right here.
Gunslinger got a hole shot big time. Now, it's a good job getting around the turn by Cyborg, but it's going to be Gunslinger. Just too much horsepower there.
And he, again, just feathers it through that turn so well. Scott Hartsock is really on a roll right now, and Gunslinger, again, is going to the semifinals, and there you see it. He's shooting another one down.
Yeah, those guns blazing from that truck. Well, like Cyborg again, and not a bad job, just not enough juice under the hood maybe.
Well, he goes into the turn here. Again, this is where he likes to think he has the advantage, but he bumps the pole and seems to kind of get off course. Only got one wheel over and never really finished the course at all. So that's technically a disqualified run, but he was beat anyway.
Indeed, it was just too strong for Gunslinger, and I think Cyborg, by the time he hit that turn, knew it. As we see here, Gunslinger, great run.
You know, you get into a groove, you know, if it's in baseball and you're on a hitting streak that, you know, that baseball looks like a beach ball, hitters will tell you. Right now, Scott Hartsock is just running with so much confidence, I don't think he thinks he can be beat right now.
And he may not here in New Orleans the way he's running. Let's hear now from Scott Hartsock.
Now, I know about the mojo, I know about the mega power, but something else is kicking in here.
Hey, I guess it's called pure adrenaline. Hey, I just, you know, it seems like I can't do anything wrong this weekend. Again, you know, last weekend, the weekend before, we run around here like banshees, you know. Every dog's got his day, you know, and today this dog's going to hunt. We're going to come out here, we're going to put down some more good passes. We're going into the semifinals right after intermission here. And hell, man, we came in here cock-locked, ready to rock this mega power Ford Gunslinger. Hey, who knows, we might just win the old Cajun country here at the old Superdome.
Now, a few weeks ago, you had a real bad run. You went down, you were out, you were no place to be found. All of a sudden, 2 weeks in a row, bang, bang, you're winning, and now you're on fire again one more time. What you change in your suspension, in your engine, and whatever, maybe it was your pregame meal, I don't know, to do this.
Hey, you could call it, you know, we ran out of bullets. We went back to Florida, reloaded, put some black powder in the old girl, dumped a bunch of mega power in the motor. Here we are. We come out cock-locked, ready to rock.
Gunslinger's hot in New Orleans.
Hey, it is hot in New Orleans. I'm telling you, step inside this seat right here, buddy, and we're smoking.
right, Scott Hartsock having some fun here. So are we, and we've got a big match between Sampson and Digger coming up. Stay with us on Monster Jam.
TNN Motor Madness Monster Jam Finals tomorrow night. Don't miss the racing excitement. 16 monster trucks invade the Trans World Dome. And then there's Quad Wars, the World Final, the Pro Stadium Truck World Finals, and more. Get your tickets at pacemotorsports.com.
Nothing is bigger than the internet. And who's on it? Kids. Who are the fans of monster trucks? Those same kids. Now, you kids out there, you can't always come to all the pit parties. You can't come to every single monster truck event. It's impossible. But what you can do is log on with Pace Motorsports and the USHRA, or these guys have their own websites. You can talk to them, email them, have a one-on-one conversation. It's the wave of the future, and we're going to find out right now how it works.
Everything, events.
I'm one finger.
How we stand in our points.
It takes me all day to talk back, you know.
What we do on the road.
We truly do read every bit of it.
Who we do it with.
I couldn't open and turn a computer on if I had to.
Where we stop and eat.
My 9-year-old can turn it on and I can't, you know.
People you see, people you don't want to see.
I know nothing about computers.
There's rumors that get going and rumors about me not working, quitting.
I know I have a website.
I always get a phone call from one of the big guys on the internet. He'll call up and he'll get the real scoop. So when everybody calls into him, they'll link into him.
My wife handles the site.
And he's got the real deal from the horse's mouth is what they like to hear.
We get email all over the world.
It's changing everything.
All right, there's Dennis Anderson. Gravedigger has to be the favorite here, going up against Sampson.
Let's see if Dan Patrick, the veteran that he is able to correct what went wrong for him in round one, which was getting off course.
Right, Sampson, the fast qualifier. Listen to that crowd here. Boy, are they into the Gravedigger. They are ready for him to run. And he is the favorite to win it here, no doubt about it. But Dan Patrick, such a veteran. We heard him tell us the adjustments that he's going to make. And as Scott said, let's see if they work. Let's see if he can hang tough with Gravedigger. He has beaten him before. It's not something that he's never done in his career. He has beaten him, so we will see what happens here.
The advantage, again, may come in that turn. Dan Patrick seems to struggle sometimes on the U-turn courses, although Dennis got a great start, and Dennis is the one off on the concrete.
But Dennis got a great start. Gravedigger off to a big start. Up and flying over those cars. It's going to be Gravedigger. It was the start, I think, that won that for Digger. Almost turns that over again.
Well, it almost looked like a replay from Indy when he was coming down and just kind of hooked in the dirt and went over. But look at the Gravedigger fans standing and cheering Dennis Anderson. Oh, what a popular win here in the Superdome.
And Dennis Anderson, I know, is excited about that. And getting off course really did not hurt Dennis Anderson, as we see in his run. And now here is Sampson and Dan Patrick. It looked like he had a pretty decent run, just did not get a good start.
You know, he stayed on the dirt because I know he wanted to stay off the concrete, and that actually seemed to slow him up a little bit going through the turn as you get a real look from right down at ground level with it. Now watch what Dennis Anderson does. Yes, he goes on the concrete, but he actually uses that to round the turn off, and it was absolutely an advantage to him because he still had plenty of momentum, and look at the air on that second half of that run.
Yeah, look at him almost turn over as well. You'll see as we look at it again, Dennis Anderson off to the good start, and he did get good air there, and that was the problem with Sampson. Did not get up in the air very much. There's the air, and Gravedigger on to a win. Gravedigger moves on now to the semifinals.
That's what you call hang time, and here's what you call a nice piece of driving to shut her down without going over on his lid. So when we get to the semis, it's going to be Gravedigger and Gunslinger, and look at that Chevrolet matchup. Sampson's back as fast qualifier against Monster Patrol.
So Sampson will have yet another shot. We'll talk more about the semifinals coming up here on TNN's Motor Madness Monster Jam.
Being a good car cleaner.
The Silverdome is the next stop on the Pace Supercross circuit, but the place to be for the Supercross Finals is Las Vegas at Sam Boyd Stadium. Be on hand as the Supercross champion is awarded the #1 plate. Tickets are available at pacemotorsports.com, and listen to live Supercross webcast at pacesupercross.com, 10:30 p.m. Eastern every Saturday night.
Time now for our Maylocks Minute. Well, Gravediggers had great luck here tonight in New Orleans, but it's not been always the case. And in our collision course, you may remember we showed you the digger with a flip. That's our Maalox Minute. But again, a reminder that here in New Orleans, Digger's looking pretty strong, and so are a lot of other guys.
Like Monster Patrol, Paul Schaefer has been outstanding all night. He's earned a berth in the semifinals. But hey, what about this red-hot Ford, the Gunslinger?
The Gunslinger has been, as you said, Scott Hartsock has just been incredible lately.
Dan Patrick hasn't won a race, but he's been fast enough to keep moving through as the fastest qualifier each round. But again, Gravedigger will also be in the house when we get to the semifinals.
Yeah, Gravedigger will be here. Dan, got anything else coming up tonight?
Well, that's it for this week's show, but I can't wait to be back here next week. We're going to have some quad wars, side-by-side sand drags, Thunderbody style, don't forget that, and of course, monsters. Here's two of them. We got Gunslinger, Monster Patrol. They're in the semifinals with Samson and Gravedigger. It promises to be nothing but exciting. Hey, Mike and Scott, take care. See you next week. Take it away for now, but do me a favor. When I see you guys next week, wear something that's more New Orleans. You're embarrassing me. See you later.
Are you kidding me?
Wait a minute, let me get this straight. This guy's down here wearing a bunch of beads, and we're embarrassing him?
I know. Well, Dan, we made it through another night. Hey, don't forget, folks, log on to country.com. Find out your personal source for all things country. Don't forget our new time. Next week, we're on at 8 o'clock. For Dan Moriarty and Scott Douglas, I'm Mike Hogwood. Thanks for being with us on Motor Madness Monster Jam. Time to close with our jam.
Crush cars! Yeah.